Hello, everybody. It's Jeff M. Swaller with the Greensburg Decatur County Chamber of Commerce, and thanks for joining us today. This is our version of Chamber Chat. It's a video chamber chat through Zoom, and we're proud today to have Christina McCord, the Marketing and Communication Relations Department. Is that right? Is that correct, Christina?
Correct. That's correct.
Our Hospice of South Central Indiana. How are you, Christina?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm doing terrific. It's going to be a beautiful day today in southeastern Indiana and south central Indiana, and I think we're tired of the rain that we had yesterday, and we're looking forward to the springtime, right? Sunshine,
Right.
everything, doesn't it?
We
Absolutely.
need it. It's good.
Yes, right. So, hey, Christina, thanks for joining us today. We do appreciate you being on here. We're going to talk about hospice, and this is that. I hate to say it. Maybe it's not, but in my opinion, this is a little difficult item to talk about, but it's a needed conversation that has to be held often. So, and I don't know, maybe when you mention the word hospice, people get the stigma of, oh my goodness, and it's sad and everything. But once it doesn't have to be. It's going to be sad for you, absolutely, if you're having to call in hospice, without a doubt. But hospice can make things so much better for patients, for people that are having issues and facing critical times in their life, obviously. So what can you start out by just giving me an overview of hospice and the role that it plays in our communities?
Sure, absolutely. And I appreciate you kind of starting off this way too, because hospice is, if we were called anything else, if we were called senior care, if we were called hospital care or something around care, it would have a different connotation. People would think of it differently, right?
Right.
And I think it stems back from the early ages of England and different things like that, the word hospice, and it's just around kind of what happens during that stage. But we're all going to be there.
We're all going to be there at some point in our life. Yeah.
Hate to say it, but we are. But what hospice does really is more than just pain and symptom management. It is it's a holistic care of just supporting family, helping family with bereavement, helping family with needs of the patient, from providing durable medical equipment to helping with medications to just all of the services that are provided with hospice care.
Sure.
It more than end of life care. It is about living a quality of life. And that's what we try to do for our patients and families. And it's such a great service.
Right. Well, Christina, I don't know about you, but I'm thankful every morning when I wake up, my eyes open up anyway. So I'm getting to that age, I guess. So, but and again, we mentioned earlier that it's difficult when people know that somebody's on hospice. But can you run me through the process of when is the right time to? Well, let's go through the process. Let's start with number one. When do I know if somebody in my family, or I don't know, I guess myself maybe, when do I know, or do I know as a patient that it's time to call in hospice? How does somebody make that decision?
Sure. And it can be a wide variation of things. So if there is ever a question, I think the one thing I do want to say is always reach out. Let us talk to you. Let us review records. Let us have a conversation to see if that time is right. Because sometimes, we can script as much as we can, but everybody's different. Every case is different. So to really answer your question, a lot of times doctors have a recommended guideline. When they say if you are seeing a doctor and you have a debilitating disease and that disease continues on a progression, maybe there's 6 months or less remaining. That's kind of their guideline. But let me tell you, the sooner we can be on service, the better, because of what we provide. And it's a free service. It's covered under Medicare, Medicaid. Sometimes private insurances have it. And it's just phenomenal, the care and the support we provide. To further answer your question, there are things like if patients are continuing to go to hospital visits or be in the ER for they call them frequent flyers.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a sign. Or if they've chosen to say no more chemo, no more radiation, I just want to live life to the fullest. And, it doesn't have to be chemo, maybe it's something else. But it's just when families say, we really want to enjoy life and have you be here with us. And for whatever time that is. And that's when we can be there.
So take me through, and I'm going to come back to the time issue, but take me through the process when a family makes that decision that it's time to call in hospice. What is the first thing that you folks do when you receive that phone call, and how does it progress from there?
Sure. Doctors typically will not have the conversation, so we know that. Statistically, we know that doctors usually will not have that conversation with you. So it really becomes a patient's decision, and it's always patient and family's decision. Give us a call. We'll have a conversation with you. We may we do ask for records, reaching out to your primary care physician or doctors you've seen, specialist visits, to get that baseline, to understand what's going on, to create that baseline for us. And then it is sending a nurse, one of our RNs, all of our nurses are RNs, and they come in and talk to you, look at you head to toe, talk to your family, look at the records, and then talk to our medical staff to determine if you are what they say qualifiable. So is it the right time for you? Can we support you with hospice care? And it may not be, and we have had those cases, but that's great. That's awesome when it's not the right time, but at least you're thinking of it, and we can then continue to follow, or maybe encourage you to look at a palliative option.
So you mentioned the right time a couple times here, and I want to, I don't mean to be ignorant about this issue, but I guess I kind of am. I'm trying to get informed myself. So is hospice just the last few days, or can this be something that is, we know somebody that may have, I don't know if Alzheimer's or dementia is a part of the process as well? I know that in the closing, I hate to say the final days of somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's, it's very difficult for the family. I understand that. But are you folks typically 6 months, 8 months, can it be a year, or is it just the final few months or days, or what is that? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, no, we prefer to have people on our service a lot longer, because studies have shown that hospice service can improve the quality of life, just from an emotional perspective, as well as pain and symptom management. So studies have shown that the sooner we can bring people onto our service, the better. But to answer your question, timing is, we can't put a stamp on it. We've had patients on our service 3 and 5 years.
Wow, okay.
So while that recommendation is for that 6 months from a doctor's perspective, they're looking at it from a trajectory of where you are currently in that disease progression. So that is kind of their, CMS guidelines as well. So CMS is a federal government agency. But anyway, so I guess to answer your question, the sooner we can bring people onto our service, the better. While it is 6 months, we've had patients on our service 3 and 5 years, a year. And so, another example, you talked about Alzheimer's. We look at what they call active daily living components, as well as the records. So are they able to dress themselves? Are they able to eat? Are they able to feed themselves, walk, do those active daily living components? And where are they on that scale? So that's another piece of how we look at if you are ready for hospice service, as well as the disease progression. And maybe you're still walking, living, going, driving, this, that, and the other, but that disease progression is kind of is going to limit you very quickly. And so we look at everything.
I think my misperception, or maybe my misconception, I'm not sure which one, but I think when I hear of somebody that's on hospice, I think, oh my goodness, it's almost the end of their time. And I don't know, maybe a lot of other people think like that too. But when I think of that, I think they've only got a few days left. And, obviously we say our prayers and reach out and say, what can we do or how can we help? And so I think I would just want that clarification and you said that some people you still get out and maybe they can still drive and stuff like that. Is that possible? You're trying to help them live as normal life as possible. Am I correct in saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So does a hospice, the registered nurse, do they come every single day, or are there scheduled visits? How's that work out then?
Yeah, so we do have scheduled visits with our staff. So on staff, their team, they're given a team, so an RN case manager that will visit throughout the week. It's usually once or twice a week, depending on where they are in the whole scheme of things. But we are able to, because of our staff levels, we are able to say, if you need us there every day based on what is happening, we can do that. So there's an RN case manager, there's a chaplain, there's a social worker, there are home health aides, and all of the support staff behind the scenes as well. So there are several people involved in the care of an individual, but behind the scenes, there's a huge amount.
So correct me if I'm wrong, most of the care is given inside the home. Is that correct? Or where they're at? They don't come to you folks. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only way in which they would come to us would be for what we call respite care. Respite gives caregivers a break. You're allowed 5 days out of every month. And while we have an inpatient facility in Columbus to support that respite stay of the patient, we do work with other facilities in the 16 counties that we serve. So, maybe coming to Columbus is kind of maybe it's not as close that you as would like. So we do work with other facilities to provide that respite stay. The other way in which they would come to us for care is if pain and or symptoms are not being managed. So maybe they're just, could be a number of things, whatever that pain and or symptom might be. We just cannot manage it in the home. So we say, come stay with us. Let us watch over you, 24-hour care, all with our goal of getting them back into their home setting. So that, we do have the inpatient facility to support that.
Now you mentioned that hospice accepts Medicaid and Medicare. Is that correct? Are there other expenses related to that might cost the patient more, or is this?
We do have an addendum that we can provide patients and families to say these are services. It's usually around medications. Sometimes it is some of the durable medical equipment, like there are things that we can't support. I know one of the things I've been asked in the past is a lift chair, like a recliner. Those are things that will not be covered just because we can't get paid back. We can't get reimbursement for those. Some medications, if there are medications that we cannot cover and the family wants to continue those, we have that conversation to identify what those are. The family can continue those if they like. But we try to cover as many of the medications as we can under that hospice benefit. But if there are some, then, we provide that addendum to let them know. Most of the care, so our team, our staff, durable medical equipment, medications, everything is covered under the hospice benefit. If there are things that can't be covered, we provide that addendum to let you know.
So is our hospice, there are hospice facilities all over, right? How is
Yes.
our hospice different from other hospices?
Yeah.
Other hospices.
Yes,
Hospice.
absolutely.
Sorry.
So I would have to say that we have been around for over 40 years. So we are kind of the pioneers in hospice for Indiana, as well as we rank in the top 5% in hospices. And let me tell you, there are probably over 80 in Indiana alone, and they're increasing by numbers. I just heard of 2 new ones last week, and I'm like, where are they coming from?
Yeah.
There are other states who say, we're capping it at 1 or 2, or, for this area only having 1, Florida and Kentucky, I think, are 2 that I can think of right off the bat who kind of have a number of hospices that they will attend to. So, but Indiana's a lot different. So it is always patient choice. Hospitals don't often provide patient choice. It's kind of it's a game sometimes. But just know that it's always patient and family choice at any time, as well as the service provided. So services can be discontinued, just like a doctor visit you can go visit another doctor at any point in time. Hospice service is the same way.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. So I've got to think about. While I also think about the patients and the families. I've got to think that those caregivers that come and visit, they probably develop relationships, and probably hard to not become friends with their patients and things like that. And that's going to be rough on them as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This year's been really hard for everybody, including our staff, just because of that relationship that they had. And then weren't able to go back into the facilities to check on them. We're having to do it through the window or through a televisit. So it's been hard on all of us, and we cry every day.
Right. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
But one of the joys I think that all of us could say is that we were meant to do this, meant to give back, meant to love on patients and families.
Servant's heart, for sure, without a doubt. That's a tough job, and having that compassion just says a lot, and that's not difficult, I'm sure. So, you have something coming up, and you typically do fundraising events. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with your fundraising events and the need for those as well? Okay.
Yeah. So we are the only nonprofit hospice that is standalone outside of a hospital. So we aren't owned by a hospital. We are our total separate business. We choose to operate under a nonprofit realm just because that's why we're asking for funding through the programs and through the events that we provide. But it's really because we know that we can give back to anyone. We don't discriminate. So we've had patients who are homeless. We are one of the very few hospices in Indiana, and I think there may only be one other who also cares for pediatric patients. So we see patients from a day old to 105 or whatever that ripe old age is.
Yeah.
So we offer services for any age, any disease, any body. Whether they accept it long term or not is kind of a different story. So we've got someone who came here from another state right now who was actually a homeless patient. So we don't discriminate, and that's why we continue to be a nonprofit. With that, we have events to support our business, to help raise funds for that. And the one upcoming in the Greensburg area is our annual golf outing. It is Friday, June 18th. A little bit different this year, and we've lowered the cost of that just because we know that we can't provide the full dinner, the full awards, and the full human interaction that we're all used to because of what's been going on. But
Right.
so we've lowered the cost a little bit on that, but we're hoping to still have a great day. It'll be fun outside, and still offering, the awards at the end, and it's just going to be a little bit different. There will be a box lunch, and yeah, we're just hoping for a great day on that one too.
Christine, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sometimes I have to refresh my memory, but last year during the heat of the pandemic, your golf outing, you folks were able to hold the outing, but you were one of the first that had the opportunity to be back on the golf course, and you had to change that whole format. Of course, the chamber holds a golf outing. We've done it for 36 years. We're coming up on our 36th year, and so you folks are one of the longest running ones around here as well. But we were at the same course, and as I pulled up out there to, I can't remember what I was doing, but your teams were getting ready to leave, and I was very concerned that, we're not having a big awards banquet, and then people aren't sticking around, and I didn't know how that'd go over. But I really believe that you folks probably benefited a little bit like we did. Our golf outing was one of the largest we've ever had this past year, and it's because people were able to get out on the golf course, and they enjoyed being outside finally, and we had those rules about social distance. We didn't know whether we could have two people to a cart, and I'm sure you folks faced the same thing last year at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a challenge, but despite whether it's the pandemic or anything, I've always found that the folks around here love to support hospice when it comes to, especially to the golf outing. You folks have a great turnout. You have some really, what I label as big time players, serious players here, and they're out to win that thing too. So you get great support.
Yeah. And we certainly appreciate all the support in the Greensburg area. We love everybody over there, and we just, it's a great fun day. It is.
Yeah. So you said over there, I should clarify that you're in Columbus today. That's where you're calling from. So
I'm calling from my home, which is closer to Seymour. So but I support all of our 16 counties. So we're all Johnson County on down to the border and Ohio. So all of the counties within Southeast Indiana.
My goodness. So with that being said about the 16 counties, people are going to probably get somebody that they have a local contact here, that they don't want to feel like if they're needing hospice, they're having to reach out far away. Am I correct with that? You have local representation.
Absolutely. So a lot of you probably know Deborah Kilgore Potter, who's our local star in the area, and she will be your first point of contact. So, her, if you need, I can give you her number, or our local number is 812-314-8083, and they can connect you with her.
Right. Or you can always call us at the chamber at 812-663-2832, and we can either hook you up with Deborah, or we can give you the number to hospices.
Yep.
So, of course, we all know Deborah Potter, so she's quite the character, and we'll just leave it at that. How's that?
We love her.
Yeah, that's right. So the June 18th golf outing, how do people get registered for that? And how else would they get information? Do you have a website available? And
that's a great question. How about if I send that over to you? I know for more information, it says call Mark Wicken.
I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize for that. Christine, we had a little bit of a breakup there, so can you tell me that?
Okay.
Yeah, we might be running out of bandwidth.
Mark
Wickens at Nationwide Insurance. Is he the contact for the golf outing?
Jim Winning.
Okay,
Jim Winning.
Jim Winning, okay.
82590-0940.
5930490.
40.
Okay, we'll have to get that information. We'll put
And
it up, Christina, we'll have to get that information and put it out on our website and in our social media networks, okay? We have a kind of a bad disconnection right now, so for whatever reason. So with that being said, since our bandwidth seems to be low for whatever reason, we're going to go ahead and end the program today. Christina, thank you so much for taking time to be with us on Chamber Chat for this day. And Hospice, our Hospice of South Central Indiana, and we'll put the information out there about your contact information, okay?
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You too.